0260846539. 0260846539. We're also streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. So you can share with us what your views are, and then I'll read them here for you. I want to kickstart the conversation from an African perspective. So it's imperative that I start with the African story. Dr. Marzouk.
Yes.
Tanzania opposition leader attacked months before elections. This is interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Yes. It is negatively interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, good morning to the cherished viewers of ours, and thanks for the opportunity. My lovely daughter, Fasiha.
She's watching.
She's watching, yes. University of Applied Management, all students of Ghana. And then this one, on behalf of my elder brother, Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpo, special good morning to the constituents of Wa Central, right? Right. All right. So yes, that is unfortunate, and it's also part of the characteristics of democratic politics in some parts of Africa. Why should the opposition leader be attacked? Elsewhere, it should be news, but on the continent of Africa, I don't think it is news. Very unfortunate. Attack on a particular political figure amounts to an attack on democratic constitutional order. And that is why these things must be avoided. Africa is a continent. One country does not live in isolation. And as we are discussing the Tanzanian political story, we also need to relate it to our situation. I do not know what led to the attack, but I do know that it is possible for any political figure on the African continent to be attacked, and that is counterproductive to the development of constitutional order. I want to appeal to African leaders, especially those who are in the arena of politics, because leaders can be found in every aspect of life. The African political leaders to ensure that democratic governance is conducted in a manner that showcases civility and humility of the African. It is very insulting to the African community for a particular political figure to be attacked. And I think we should not allow such things to happen. What I will also call on the AU to investigate these specific issues. AU should not leave it in the hands of the so-called Western hegemonists, because I think COVID-19 has exposed at a large level, a very large level, the once widely held presumption of Euro-American supremacy. And if COVID has come to level the ground for all of us to understand that any nation can be superior or any nation can be inferior. It is just a matter of choice. And I think we should not leave these things in the hands of any outsider. Let us have an African solution to it. Let us ensure that such dastardly acts are not repeated in other parts of Africa. Let us ensure that the AU takes a very serious interest in the case and make sure that it is not repeated anywhere. As we are discussing today, we are also in an era of democratic politics. I'm referring to Ghana. Let us learn from all these things. Let us ensure that these things are not repeated in our part of the world, and we should together find a solution. I am not blaming the government entirely, because we don't even know. The story does not tell us whether the government forces...
The story actually says that, you know, Freeman has been a critic of, you know, Magufuli's governance.
Yeah.
And he has chided him quite recently over what he describes as a deliberate attempt to mislead the public relative to COVID-19 and its attending, you know, issues in Tanzania.
Okay.
And so on the basis of that, he has been criticizing President Magufuli every single time. And he was taking the stairs at one point, and then some armed men just ambushed him. They assaulted him. According to the story, that they had guns, but they never used them. They had firearms, but they didn't use them, according to the secretary of Freeman. But they are owing all of these things to, of course, political harassment and creating an atmosphere, where the opposition leaders would now begin to be afraid, if you will, of voicing out whenever they have an issue with government and things like that. Yeah.
Yes. So it is now clear that one can assume that the attack has been sponsored by the state.
Yeah.
Yes, there is that presumption. Then I think the government and its assigns should understand that this is not a military junta. This is constitutional order. Whatever his crime, he is not above the law. He should be dealt with within the context of the law. And for him to be attacked by supposed loyalists of the government, it is very unfortunate. I think it is counterproductive to democratic constitutionalism, and it is something that the government must address. Whoever is involved should be arrested, charged, prosecuted, and if found guilty, dealt with according to the law.
Yeah.
Because it is important for the government to even understand that the existence of governance is conditioned on peace and stability. And if there's no peace, if there's no stability, no democratic governance, and therefore the government should go into the matter and do proper investigation, because even if the opposition leader is a critic, his security is supposed to be a primary responsibility of the government, and therefore the government should try as much as possible to use democratic means to solve this problem. Africa must move away from the scene of thuggery, scene of vulgarism, scene of barbarism. We should demonstrate to the whole world that we are now at a stage where we can also be described as people who stand by the values of civility, tolerance, love, unity, and constitutionalism. Okay.
Well, of course, constitutionalism also ensures that there is demonstrable rule of law and separation of powers and some level of checks and balances, and it's quite clear and obvious that that is really missing in the Tanzanian case.
Sure.
Dr. Rashid Pelpo, you are a student of international relations, and I'm sure you are very much delighted to have this topic tabled for you to also comment on the same. So let's hear from you, sir.
Well, thank you so much, and good morning to viewers, and especially WA Central.
We're coming. By the way, we're coming to WA Central.
Yeah, Pan Africa is coming. I have lots of great friends here who say they are coming to see you.
Yeah.
And to advocate for my return, or my maintenance. You maintain me as a member of parliament. Thank you very much for all the advocacy and support. You see, the Tanzanian political administration has been fraught with a lot of complaints about the high-handedness of the president, John Magufuli. And we have an opposition which is unrelenting, very much unrelenting. The present attack is on the leader, the chairman of the opposition party, Freeman Mbowe. Yeah, Freeman is known critic of Magufuli, and we all expect that something like this would happen because there have been skirmishes about how to maintain power, how to tarnish the reputation of the leader, and he has been arrested. By the way, he was arrested several times, incarcerated. There was a time he was arrested, tried quickly, and imprisoned, and released subsequently. So you have this concept, this idea of centralized administration exercised by John Magufuli. You can imagine him insisting that even when members of parliament are going to travel, they have to seek permission from him before. You have to write to the president and he will grant you permission as a member of parliament to travel. So he's narrowing down the concept of separation of powers. That's why I'm saying he's trying to attempt a centralized administration that controls all the arms of government. It will not do for democracy. So when news broke up about the attack of Freeman, we knew that there was going to be a huge suspicion as to who was responsible. I mean, because you cannot have a leader of the opposition attacked by elements, attacks, and it's not because they want to steal something from him, it's not because they want to hurt him in any way with the guns they were holding, but just to beat him, embarrass him, and get him into hospital and then run away. That tells you, one, about the lack of security around the presidency, or sorry, the political figures there. And then the second is about the possibility that government itself may have sponsored this attack on the person of the opposition leader. So, like Dr. Marzuka has said, this should be a lesson to Africa. You know, we need to rise above the situation where political opponents are serious political enemies who should be targeted, hurt because of reasons of disagreement. We should get to the point when we can say that, look, I oppose you, but in only because of the ideas you are projecting. You know, we oppose the MPP because of the ideas they project. We oppose them because of the policies they do. We oppose them because of corruption. We oppose them because of abuse of human rights that sometimes occur in the administration. But if I see an MPP person, he's a human being. You cannot just say because he's an MPP, I should take a stick and hit him. It's unacceptable. Nor should an MPP person, because somebody is not in government, you see the person and try to hurt him. It's unacceptable. So I think that Ghana has gone a long way, and I hope that MPP should not take us to the road where we can hurt each other because of politics. And I think so far we've been able to do well.
Okay.
And I think that having to learn a lesson here should demonstrate that when opposition parties are angry about government, they criticize government, it is also for the good of the people. They are voicing the voices of the many people who didn't vote for the government, but who want to make sure that the right things are done and that their money is spent in the right manner, and that the conduct of the opposition person is in accord with the overall concept of seeking to ensure an equilibrium in government. And that when presidents behave, or leaders who are elected or appointed behave, they should behave because they want to make sure they respect the will of the people, not because they want to enhance their own reputation and make themselves big and rich. No, it is important for us to understand these things. And so when you see somebody like Manasseh criticizing MPP, he shouldn't be running away to hide in South Africa because he thinks that MPP will hurt him. No, we have gotten to the point when nothing like that should happen in our body politic. And that we've gotten to the point when we should be happy, you know, working as opposition or working as government without the fear that somebody is lurking behind you, seeking to hurt you. Yeah.
Brilliant submission by Dr. Rashid Pelpuo. Well, if you just joined us, you're watching the News Review segment on Pan-African Television with me, Kwame Owusu Danso, and we've just dispatched with the Tanzanian issue where the opposition leader has been attacked by some unknown persons. It appears that the perception out there really is that the government is very much aware of that particular attack. Now, before we get into the huge conversation about the elections in Ghana, I think that it's rather very melancholic what has transpired over these few days, where we've had floods wreak havoc really on the lives of the Ghanaian people. And on the basis of that, we have lost some 5 people, which 5 people were lost as a result of the floods. Now, I do remember quite vividly on the 3rd of May, we after the floods and fire gutted, some parts of Accra, there was that talk about the fact that it was never, ever going to rear its head again, its ugly head again. Unfortunately, a few years down the lane, we've seen the very acts resurface. I recall vividly that around that time, there was an attempt to desilt our drainages because we felt that, we had made them choked, for which reason it was difficult for the debris, if you will, to freely flow and things like that. But whenever it rains, Doc, subsequent to same, whenever it rains, you and I are, I don't know, whenever the clouds gather, we begin to feel some shivers down our spine because we do know that some of our brothers and sisters are living on the streets of Accra. And so, when issues get worse, we don't know where they're going to sleep. And this is no different, sir. 5 people have lost their lives, and we're still back to square zero. Is it square one or square zero? Why? Doc.
This is...
And it's sad. Like, I'm very emotional talking about this. And we keep... It's like... It's become more like a cliche. We keep saying the same things over and over and over again, especially the different... That's madness. That's what the what's his name? The scientist said, what's his name? He said it's madness. If you do the same thing and expect a different result, that's madness.
There's
Einstein, he said that.
Einstein, yeah. I think that we reflect exactly what Einstein had been thinking of when he said that. Actions and reactions are opposite and equal. This is one of the laws of motions by the British scientists. And if you want to take an action that can result in a positive results, there is a way to do it. And it's very scientific. If you want cleanliness, you clean your environment, and then you'll be seen to have a clean environment. If you want to avoid flood, you distill the gutters, you ensure that you reconstruct the places that will allow water to flow, and then you get a resource. But if you choke the gutters, and then you eat things, you throw them on the street, you take rubbish, you dump them in the gutters, you don't expect to have water flowing easily. It will flood the place. So I think that, I recall when this thing happened, when there were floods in the NDC regime, the critique by the MPP people that we are not working hard, we've been in power for some time, and we are not doing ABCD. We pointed at how we constructed the Odo River, the huge gutter from Odo, Odoko, what's the name of the place? Where the police depot is, around that Alajo area, the construction we did there through Circle in order to avoid the floods. We had something to show. We demonstrated. We went to Circle, redid the place to allow water to flow and all that and all that. We worked very hard to achieve that. But they still criticize us. And now they are in power and things are getting worse. Because when we started doing something about it, you know that every June in Ghana, June, July in Ghana, there will be heavy rains. And then these rains will last until August. And very likely it will flood places. So you start preparing towards that. So in all the years we have been in power, there came a time when an individual who they love to criticize, Ibrahim Mahama, he decided that he should just use his power, his whatever he earned, to support government to make sure that floods don't recur any longer. He came to Circle, he distilled the place, he brought all his machines there to take the rubbish away, and then to do some small cementation works here and there. And then still they were criticizing him. Now there's nobody who amongst them, with all the money they are gathering, who will be willing to come and do what Ibrahim did. On behalf of the people for Mother Ghana and at its own cost. You go to pay a lot of money for things to happen, for the drainage to be, for the places to be drained. It's not drained and the money fizzles out. So you wonder exactly what is happening. This must be a government that should respond to the will of the people and the desires of the people. The government must sit up and work towards achieving the best we can. We don't want the yearly cyclical occurrence of floods, that will kill people, that will destroy property, and that will keep us in a bad mood. So I think that what the government should do now is to do what we had been doing and take it to the next length. Every year, you plan to see what will happen. How will the water go? We got to the point when we even were advocating that, look, the water flowing all the way from the mountains will get to Tetekwashi, but they will have no place to go. So they'll be forced to start the floods there, move to Alajo, destroy the places and flood people's houses. And people were saying, is the waterway President Kufuor's houses? So we have to break it and allow the water, reconstruct the gutter and allow the water to go. That was how serious we took the matter. Tell us what this government has done so far. Nothing, almost nothing. They have not demonstrated they want to curb the problem. They only talk, and the best they can do is to try to convince individuals that they are doing well by giving them some perks, either giving them jobs or giving them things to give them the impression that things are happening. But indeed, we are very sad. The situation is terrible.
I posted exactly 4 years ago, and I'm just seeing this now on my Facebook wall.
Yes.
A post that was very harsh to the person of Okovandapoy 4 years ago.
Okay.
And this must have been in 2016, I think.
Yeah.
And I was very, very harsh to this person. Because then at the time when we were experiencing floods, that was when he had a billboard erected, and he said with the, congratulations, some mayor of Accra, something. And I was very, very livid because, the following day, places were flooding and things like that. So Facebook just reminded me, and unfortunately, we are discussing the issues of floods again.
Yeah.
Now, you are talking about what this administration has done.
Has not done.
Or hasn't done, or in ameliorating the challenges of the people relative to floods and things like that.
Yeah.
What did you do?
And I told you,
because you spoke about Ibrahim Mahama, who was widely criticized for desilting the Odo River, and a few other interventions that were put in place. But the issue about floods goes beyond just desilting.
No, but I'm explaining to you. Did you see the huge river banks constructed from Alajo right up to the circle? Through up to the lagoon. Did you see? Have you seen it before? That is the work we have done. It's huge investment.
But my difficulty, with the greatest of respect to you, is that we tend to now look at, after we've experienced the ramifications, that is where we try to bring we try to resolve the matter. Because you see, this whole thing about floods doesn't just start from what you're talking about, creating the huge drainages and things like that. It starts from Abri. All the trees in Abri have been felled. Almost all the trees in Abri. And if you did geography, I'm sure you know how all these things happen, and then flood occurs and things like that. All the waterways we've built on them. So what we are dealing now is with the end result of the process. The process we have not tackled. We are looking at the end result. How do we address that? Former President Mohammed's house, J. Kufuor's house. Every single time an issue of flooding comes up, we refer to that house, and yet nothing has been done to a result of that matter. So how do we resolve this issue if, for instance, the main drainage system in this country has been built upon? Let
me explain to you that since independence, we've been experiencing water running from the mountains onto Accra. It's been happening. We took steps to make sure that we divert the course of the water into a huge drainage into the Odo River and get it flow into the lagoon and into the sea.
Yeah.
So if you see the construction work we did, it's all aimed towards that. You can also see that inside Alajo, the flood used to kill people. It's no longer the same. We have gone into Alajo, done gutters, and then gotten the water to pass through a huge gutter that will also connect to the river and to the sea. You see, if you ask what NDC has done, we've done so much. And you can see when you get to Circle used to flood to the point that people died. You know, what happened in Circle the last time when there was an explosion at the petrol station. Even when the place got flooded and people were getting in and couldn't come out, fire took over and then people were dying in their numbers. People got burnt and all that. You enter the water itself caught fire. So look at what we did to Circle. We reconstructed the place and did a huge, for the first time, a triple overhead, which will allow, you know, traffic to flow and allow water to also take its course. We have done so much. And the question I ask is, what has the MPP done in the 4 years, into getting to the 4 years, to make sure that the yearly flooding, which poses new challenges, we are not going to solve it once and for all. In London, you can find floods. In the heartland of New York, you can find floods. These things happen when you ignore, you know, the dynamics of construction and reconstruction, the dynamics of distilling and redistilling. When you ignore them, you definitely will have a situation like what we are having now. So at the run up to June, now it's even not too hard. June is still coming. So we are in June, sorry. We are in June. The middle of June and end of June is still coming. So what we have to do now is to make sure the city authorities distill all the gutters and all the places that have been opened up. And that all new construction works that are coming up, kiosks and new walls that are built at places that will prevent water from flowing easily, you break them down and allow the water to pass. You know, so if you just are relaxed, lackluster approach to development in the city and the periphery of the city and allow things to go the way they go, we are going to have this thing suffer. We're going to suffer this thing over and over and over again.
In my area, there's a drainage system, a gutter, let me say, that has been subdivided or divided into two. One part of it used as a road, the other part left as a gutter. And nobody has done anything about it. So I don't know how we intend to address this issue, especially when we are compounding same. Doc, before I come to Dr. Mazu.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that it is the lack of agency in the body politic. The people handed over the power to run the states, to run the cities, must be up and doing. If they are relaxed, the people can do what they want to do. Because I would not know that in doing what I'm doing, I'm blocking water source or water flow. I wouldn't know that what I'm doing is hurting a whole nation. Because it's normal and natural for people to look after their interests. So because of my self-interest, I'll do A, B, C, D. But because of the general interest, the city authorities have to be on its feet. The government has to be on its feet, insisting that the right thing be done in accordance with the law. If you allow people to violate the law willfully, then you have these problems as we have. Yeah.
Doc, let me hear from you now.
It is a reflection of collective failure in many aspects of governance and national life. Policy failure, attitudinal failure, the failure in housing deficiency,
land tenure system, land distribution,
compliance with the law. So it will be unfortunate to single out a particular institution or a particular regime for blame. We are all part of that problem. We are all complicit in that problem. we are all victims and we are all perpetrators. My elder brother, Honorable Dr. Rashid, has mentioned the intervention undertaken by the NDC. I can also remember that Kufuor's regime constructed the Alajo Gata, that long Alajo Gata. And before that, Alajo Gata used to be a scene of flood disaster. Anytime it rained, either we would lose people or we would lose property. Kufuor regime did that. Even before that, I think Rawlings' first regime, the NDC one, did a lot of things. Kufuor came and handled other aspects. I want to believe John Mahama. I can't recollect, but former President John Mahama also did it. If nothing at all, I think my elder brother has mentioned the effort made by Ibrahim. So governments have done their part, but surely all these efforts by the various governments are not enough. And it is not only a matter of government. I've mentioned policy failure. In terms of policy, in relation to that issue, all governments have failed. But the policies themselves are not enough. The policies are subject to compliance, subject to public respect. So when you move beyond the policy and you come to the level of compliance, almost all Ghanaians have failed, or majority of Ghanaians could be described as failures in that direction. Prevention of such disasters is not just a matter of constructing gutters. It is also a matter of respect for environmental protection. You and I have a responsibility to ensure that the gutter constructed by the government is free from filth. The government can construct the best gutter to solve the worst drainage system or to solve the worst flood disaster. If you and I do not maintain that gutter by avoiding putting unnecessary things into that gutter, definitely we will not be talking of a desired result. So it is a matter of attitude. Let us look at that. Then again, we need to ensure a total overhaul of our land tenure system. We need to understand that building on the waterways itself is a major cause of such disasters. And if we have so many institutions handling lands, then we should not be seen as perpetrators of such acts that are leading to avoidable disasters. One, we have the Land Commission. Two, we have a whole Ministry of Lands and Forestry. And then you come to the Lands Department. All these institutions are there. We still have issues of land gas. We still have issues of building on waterways. We still have issues of constructing illegal structures. We still have issues of not complying with the basic requirements of acquiring lands. All these things are players in the disaster. And I think it is only fair that all Ghanaians come together to ensure that collectively we solve this problem. When we leave it to the various governments, definitely ours is multi-party democracy. And when it comes to this time, you see more partisanship than nationalism in relation to that issue. Every political party, given the opportunity, will be trying to convince Ghanaians what it has done, what it did, and what it will do to solve the issue.
Okay.
But if we go beyond that, and then we ensure that it is a national issue, it will be the responsibility of all of us. It will not just be a matter of interrogating national policies. It will also be a matter of examining our attitude towards such a problem. And together, we can solve it.
Together, we can solve the problem. The WhatsApp number is 026-084-6539. 026-084-6539. Let me also quickly remind you that the newspaper review segment is proudly sponsored by Akosomo Textile Limited. Akosomo Textile Limited as well as Rage Royal Hotel, richly inviting, comfortably yours, and also Shekina Herbal, as well as Mr. Q. Mr. Q. Let's proceed from here and look at some other very important issues as well. CI 126 passed, and I'm excited to have a member of parliament here to speak to the matter. Now, even before he gets to talk, Parliament approves ECCI 126 by majority decision. Here goes. Parliament by majority decision 106 to 92 has approved the recommendation of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee to adopt its report on the constitutional instrument CI 126, which is to give the legal backing to the Electoral Commission's EC's plans to compile a new voters register. Now, the CI 126, which makes the card, the Ghana card and the Ghanaian passport, the only legal identification document for registering people in the new biometric voters register, was first laid before the House on March 16th, but was withdrawn and relayed on 2 occasions after the Subsidiary Legislation Committee detected some defects in the instrument on those occasions. Under the CI 126, those who do not have the Ghana card or Ghanaian passport can still register, provided they are able to get 2 already registered voters to vouch for them. The last time the CI was relayed in Parliament was on March 31st, 2020. The approval in Parliament on Tuesday by majority decision therefore allows the CI 126 to come into force on Wednesday, which is today, the 10th of June 2020, after 21 selling days. This therefore gives the Electoral Commission the green light to go ahead and compile the new voters register by using only the Ghanaian passport or Ghana card as a document for citizenship identification. Raises so many questions, creates a lot of tensions, deepens the mistrust that people have with respect to the electoral process that we are experiencing thus far. Dr. Rashid Pelpo, let's listen to you on this matter, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Yesterday, the unthinkable has happened. Many people thought that with all the hue and cry about the needed amendment or the amendment of CI 91 to have the CI 126 pass into law would not come to be, because the expectation was that the Electoral Commission would have listened to the chiefs, to the people, to the NGOs, to individuals, to the academia, to political parties, to the electorates complain and decide that, look, they were going to withdraw it. They did not do that. They insisted in keeping it there. And yesterday, a report came to Parliament. And the report was voted on. The minority insisted that we're not just going to have it pass in the ordinary way other CIs will pass. Let me explain how CIs become laws. They are instruments of operations. They are, in this particular one, it's called a CI because it's a constitutional instrument. The Electoral Commission derives its power from the Constitution directly. It's an independent body. So if it wants to operationalize the law that establishes it and giving it its power to exercise the right to conduct voter registration, it has to have some regulations to do that. It has to have some procedures to do that. Those procedures will be governed by the law. And so they come in the form of CIs. And when CIs appear on the floor of Parliament, they mature in 21 days. The maturity of this CI is today. So from today on, they can do what they want to do with what Parliament has given them the power to do. Now, if the CI was not voted on, was rejected, the report was rejected by Parliament, we would also go on to throw it out, to throw the CI out. But nothing like that happened. In the first instance, when we wanted to vote to reject the report and to say that the CI was inimical to the will of the people, we failed to do it. Let me explain to the people, to the Ghanaian electorate listening to us, that even if we had gotten the 106 votes and MPP had gotten the 92 votes, the CI will still have become a law. Anybody who wants to overturn a CI will require to test majority of all members of Parliament. And to test majority of all members of Parliament would mean that you would need about 181 members of Parliament voting for it. So what the NDC did was to put on records that we oppose to the CI, a CI that will allow a voter, a prospective Ghanaian voter, to use only 2 identity documents to identify himself or herself. The passport, which 90 or 80% of Ghanaians don't have, and then the Ghana card, which only a few people now have. Only very few people have. So it is as if to ensure that not many people are qualified to be voters. Other than that, why would anybody want to use only these 2 identifying documents to identify a citizen? In accordance with the Constitution, Article 42 of the Constitution, a person is qualified to vote if he is or she is 18 years and with a sound mind. Now, if you are 18 years and have a sound mind, you are qualified to vote. You don't have any record of being of insane character, so you can vote. How do you identify somebody who is 18 years? In what way would you identify that person? Definitely by his birth certificate. They say it's not something they would require, or by a previous voter register. When he registered, all his biodata is included in the register. So when you slot it in, everything about him will come out, or her will come out. They say it's not qualified to be an identity document. The only ones that are qualified are the Ghana card and a passport. Now, we don't have passport. We don't have Ghana card. How do we get to register? They said, oh, you can get 2 people to identify you as a Ghanaian. And when you do that, you will fill a form. Now, imagine in a COVID situation where a crowd will be limited. Imagine in a COVID situation where you cannot have many people coming at a time to register. They are not close to each other. And then you are going to fill a form. After filling the form, you can then send it to the presiding member. The presiding officer of the Electoral Commission will now approve it before you can be identified and say, yeah, you are a Ghanaian. Go and take a card. You are doing this within a space of time. And that space of time can only allow a certain number of people. How do we register a voter population of close to 20 million Ghanaians within that space of time? So we were calling on the Electoral Commission to reason it out with us that you cannot use that space of time to register all the people very close to the election, number 1. Number 2, you cannot limit the number of identity documents that will allow people to be identified as Ghanaians. And the third is that if you say the Electoral Commission, the voter register is over-bloated, by what margin is it over-bloated? They said about 27,000 people. Now, because of 27,000 people, you are changing the whole superstructure, dismantling it and putting in place a new one. We said it doesn't make sense. If we say it's over-bloated, go and clean it. The Supreme Court judgment and pronouncement that came in the wake of the Ramadan case said that, or instructed the Electoral Commission to go and clean the register of anybody who was not qualified to be in the register. You take their names off and give them an opportunity to register again. Now, we are saddled with an issue. We have been given the mandate. The Electoral Commission has been given the mandate. The CI, which is to operationalize their mandate in Article 45, has matured, and they are now to do a new register. We are watching. Ghanaians are watching, and I want to encourage anybody who wants to be part of this register, not to say because we are opposed to them, you won't go and register. We will do whatever it takes. If indeed they are going to go on with the registration, we will do whatever it takes to get as many people into the voter register, because this suppression of voters is not going to save the MPP from being voted out of power. They have demonstrated failure. They have demonstrated they can't fulfill their promises. They have made life very difficult for the Ghanaians. There's all the corruption allegations going on cannot be forgotten. We have a system which is full of nepotic conduct and behavior. We have a system which is full of corrupt practices. We have a system that cannot be trusted by the Ghanaian. We have a system that has made so many promises and has failed so many of them to the people. This is not a government you will want to give power to. And they know that these are trying moments for them. The only way they can avoid it is to make sure in their strongholds they have a lot of people holding the Ghana card and then capable of going to do a voter register, a voter identity card. And you have a suppressed situation where people who support them, who don't support them, have fewer number of people registering for the Ghana card. That may be a good reason for them to say, look, we are not going to use any other thing but the Ghana card. But they'll be surprised the turnout, what is going to be. And I encourage my friends, Ghanaians, whichever party you are in, especially those who are opposing the MPP, to make sure they get their names into the register at all costs, to make sure that on that day we exercise our franchise and vote the way we think is right.
Now, that is a very easy call. But fundamentally, what has created the atmosphere of mistrust is the unequal access to information.
Yes.
And what has been also described by the NDC as a deliberate attempt to relegate, or if you will, ostracize them from the whole process. And which is why the NDC is hell-bent in ensuring that the EC does not go ahead with the compilation of the new voters register, because of all of these nuances.
Yes. Because
you feel that you have been sidelined in all of the conversations. Because you feel that your opinions haven't been heard. Because you also feel that the opinions, even if have been heard, have not been acted upon. And that really is part of the reasons why, you guys do not really trust the whole process. So granted that, let me grant you that, right? But look at the recent conduct of the EC. I mean, that one we can grant them pardon. But look at the recent conduct of the EC. You have a matter that is pending before the highest court of the land, which matter is seeking for a declaration, or if you will, an interpretation of a certain decision, to the effect that can we use a voter's ID card? Can we exclude the voter's ID card? And then the court subsequently instructed the EC to present it with an explanation, a legal justification for excluding the voters' ID card. So the matter is still pending before court.
Yes.
I think the EC recently just responded to that, right? You also had the CI that will give oxygen to the changes that the EC wants to also do with respect to compiling the new voters register, right? That was also before Parliament. It hadn't matured. They only matured just, I think, yesterday or so. You guys voted on it and blah, 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 right? Okay. However, the EC goes ahead and does piloting, which piloting excludes the original breeder document with the base document, which is that which we've always used for our voting exercise, which is the voter's ID card, which is the birth certificate, which is the passport, and the likes. The EC excludes that, and then begins to use the Ghana card and passport as the two main documents for registration in its piloting project. When the matter was before a competent court of jurisdiction, when the CI was still in Parliament awaiting maturity. So how can you trust such an institution?
You can't.
How can you trust the process?
You can't. And I'm telling the people who are in the rural areas, and many of them beginning to say that the NPP is the party they want to support. They are excluding you. You don't have passport. They are telling you you shouldn't vote. You don't have Ghana card. They are telling you you are not the one they are looking for. They want people in the cities who are elite to vote for them. And that's why they are limiting it to those things that can be gotten only by the middle class. You see, so like you are saying, if you are dialoguing with us and you already have a frame of mind that seems to suggest that you are done, it's a done deal, it means you are effectively excluding us from participating in the process. But as I said, we're not going to take it that lying low. The court is still yet going to take a decision. We will see whether that landmark decision is going to exclude by the Supreme Court pronouncement the voter ID card, which identifies a person to elect the leader of this country, the leaders of this country, which indeed was used to elect the president of this country, which indeed was used to elect the members of parliament, the assembly members, the by-elections conducted quite recently. So if that is what is legitimizing the citadel of power presently, what should be the reason to exclude that as a way of identifying a person? Are we saying the president is legitimate? What is the reason for rejecting it? I'm sure the Supreme Court will make a pronouncement. We are all looking out for the pronouncement, because if you are saying that if you bring it in as a base document to identify a person, you'll be importing the same people you say are not Ghanaians into the system. But who was not a Ghanaian and voted? That you identified, and you cannot say that these are the people, I'm excluding them. You are the EC. If people were not Ghanaians and they voted, the register is with you, and you are saying they were not Ghanaians. Now tell us who were there. Remove them from the list. You say, well, they are there. We know them, 27,000. But we have to do a new one. That tells you there is a hidden agenda. And I tell them, Ghana has gotten to a point where democracy has taken roots. The MPP cannot take us back. We are moving forward, and forward we go. We will not allow any sector to disrupt our democracy and to destroy.
Why can't we have an independent parliament that will? Yes, I can appreciate that the constitution requires a certain number of people to come, ministers to come from parliament. But when it has to do with matters of national division, why can't we have a parliament that will rather heed to the demands of the people? Because in every constituency, you don't simply have only MPP members. You have both MPP and NDC members.
Yeah.
And so if you are taking a decision in parliament, and because the parliamentarian is a representative of the people.
Yeah.
So if you are representing the people and you are taking a decision for and on behalf of the people, why do you take a decision that only sits well with one political party and not all political parties?
Well,
why are we having this trend? And this trend is this parliament. What is this?
It is
Ghana's parliament here.
You see,
the rubber stamp approach.
It is the system we are running. We kind of was confused when the founding fathers, when the people who drew the constitution, 1992 constitution, were doing the constitution. We were informed by our experiences. First of all, remember when we ran the presidential system of administration, Liman was president. When the MPs became angry that they were not part of his government, they were independent, and decided to vote against his budget, his own MPs joined the opposition and voted against his government.
Yeah.
It led to the collapse of the government. So in doing so, in knowing this, the writers of the constitution thought that, look, if you also make it an absolutely ministerial system, it will happen that in one region, like in Volta region, when in Bougier's time, nobody voted for, nobody became a member of parliament from Volta region. The ministers that were appointed from parliament did not reflect the nation, national consensus. It didn't reflect the nation.
But now the narrative is different. Now we have a representation across the board. So why don't we do something about it?
I'm talking about 1992.
No, I get it. But now the narrative is different.
In the two scenarios, they decided to blend the constitution. Let's blend the ministerial and presidential system to be a hybrid of the two of them. And that's the kind of thing we have. But in doing so, the effect of it is that you have an MPs backing a government because they think that this government, if they don't back it, they can whip them into line. And besides whipping them into line, they will not have the possibility of being appointed anything at all if you are a rebel in your party, like PC Ofori was treated in the previous MPP administration. You know, so people then became apprehensive. Like, I'm not going to leave my party and support another party because I can be punished. I can be ignored. So we are now torn into two separate parties and supporting two separate ideas and policies and convictions, which necessarily don't reflect the reality. So I think that we may need to once again revisit the constitution and revisit the whole political system, the architecture, the political architecture, political system we put in place, so that we can either say we are presidential, get people, if you are a member of parliament, you are a member of parliament, you are not going to be a minister, you are going to vote according to what you believe in, you don't vote because of a political party that may have taken you there. But it's still going to be very, very difficult.
No, but I agree with you, because the kind of political system that we practice has allowed for all of these things to happen.
Yeah.
I believe that because you represent the people, everybody cannot be in parliament. So they select one person to represent them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether I voted for you or not. Once you have been voted for by the constituents, the presumption of reality is that you represent the people, and at all material times you must do what the people want.
Yeah.
So how do you then take a decision without recourse? I don't know whether even you members of parliament, you have council meetings and things like that, to really appreciate and understand the gravamen of, you know, the situation that confronts the people and what specifically they demand or require of you, the members of parliament. I don't know whether that happens.
Yeah. Maybe Dr. Marazuka.
No, I'm asking a specific question.
Okay.
You are a member of parliament.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking a specific. Don't worry about that. I'll give him a star.
Yes.
I was looking at the time.
Let me explain to you. In parliament, we have we have a parliament of the whole. We also have a joint caucus. A joint caucus is when the NDC MPP will come together as one membership. And then you discuss things in the interest of Ghana, in the interest of, without political division. Yeah, we have something like that.
Okay.
So when we have a joint caucus, we don't invite the press. We don't invite anybody. Just the MPs alone will meet and say, look, these are issues we want to tackle. This, that. And you can tackle them with a partisan approach. Joint caucus meetings. So sometimes you have it. But when it comes to relating with the public and discussing issues, let me remind you that political parties come with an agenda, That agenda is called a manifesto, and that manifesto is what is sold to the people. The people buy it by voting for them. Now, when they buy it and voted for you, you are duty-bound to implement the manifesto. The MPP argument is that, well, when we were coming, we were against this voter register, and we said that it was bloated, and we said that it should be changed. So we are still standing by it. Let's change it. Now, when you say that, the critique about it is that it is the party that is influencing the Electoral Commission. The independence of the Electoral Commission is compromised, because the Electoral Commission should do what is best for it. What is best for it is what the Supreme Court ruled. Clean up the register, update it. And that is even what the Constitution tells you.
Okay.
The Constitution in 45(1), or is it 2? Tells the Electoral Commission to compile the register and update it from time to time. Compile the register and then update it from time to time, meaning that there should be a primary register. You don't need to do a different one. What you can do is to update it. In 1992, the first elections we held in the Fourth Republic, there was already a voter register, which we were using to do assembly elections and things like that. There was no need to do a fresh register. What we only did was to update it, because the primary register, in accordance with the Constitution, is what you can update from time to time. Okay. That should have been the idea behind the Electoral Commission's actions, and that should have been the major thing they should do. But because the MPP had a vision, and then a manifesto promise, and said that we will make sure we do a new register, which technically does not support the constitutional mandates given the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission said if there's a register, update it. You don't need to go and do a new one. But MPP said, look, it's our mandate that we are saying we will do it. So they influence the Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission is doing it, meaning the Electoral Commission's independence is largely compromised by a political party insisting they want to do something that does not coincide with the wishes of the people and not the Constitution as well. But again,
appreciate the depth of knowledge demonstrated here on the morning show by Dr. Rashid Popo and Dr. Mazouk. Dr. Mazouk, let's now hear from you, sir.
Parliament has discharged its exclusive constitutional responsibility, and that is passing the CI 126. So there's nothing wrong with that. We may not even see anything wrong with that. But we have every right to question the content of the CI. The passing of the CI is one thing, and that is exclusively a responsibility of Parliament.
Yes.
But the content of the CI is something else. And I think we cannot at all be cited for contempt of Parliament if we question the content of the CI.
It has left Parliament.
Yes.
It's no longer in our bosom.
Exactly. So sometimes it is not the case that everything constitutional or legal is in the interest of the people. It is not the case. Sometimes it is not the case. And it is within this thinking that I am 100% opposed to a particular portion of the CI, and that is the exclusion of the voters register, the exclusion of the birth certificate. My point is simple. I say it as an act of constitutional tyranny. But tyranny does not exist only in the military junta. Tyranny can exist in a constitutional administration. Right? Constitutional tyranny because it is more likely to exclude a number of people from participation. And remember, democratic constitutionalism is a matter of participation, especially so when it is multi-party. If it is a if we are operating in multi-party constitutional democracy, then the key or one of the fundamental factors that we must consider should be participation. Participation should be wider. We should at all times create opportunities for massive participation. This issue will be counterproductive to participation, because a lot of people will be excluded. A lot of people will be disenfranchised, and that is not in the interest of the people. That is not in the interest of the country. That's not in the interest of democracy. So my problem is that content, if there is the need, there's the need, or if it is possible for us to look at it again, we have to look at it again. Yes, we respect the separation of powers, an issue pending before the Supreme Court, and then a related issue has been handled by Parliament. That is just a mere reflection of the separation of powers. But my problem, once again, is that the separation of powers, that concept, the concept of separation of powers, should be in the interest of the people. It should not be done in a manner that is inimical to the consolidation of constitutional order. It should not at all. So if we have an issue before the Supreme Court, and then Parliament has also dealt with that issue in a manner that creates the impression that we are more likely to have a problem. Because if, for example, the Supreme Court rules in favor of the plaintiff, definitely we are going to have problems with the position of Parliament, the person of the CI, and the pronouncement by the Supreme Court. That may create constitutional crisis.
But you know the danger.
Right.
The danger is that, and Doc, I don't know if you can also, if a law is applied in court, or if a ruling is given in court, yes, without the knowledge of the judge of a particular law relative to that matter,
yes,
any other courts can overturn that decision and say that, well, the decision was reached by inquiry, which means that, you know, the judge did not take notice of a law that was in existence and went ahead to give that ruling. Now let me tell you a trick. What is happening is that the court must not concern themselves so much with what Parliament does, because if you are not careful, what it means is that you'll be instead of interpreting the law, you will be drafting or making laws, and that is within the remit of Parliament. Parliament is supposed to pass laws. The court is supposed to interpret laws. So at all material times, and in many cases, the court has tried to refrain itself from interpreting or from drafting or be seen to be making laws, right? Okay. Now, once Parliament has passed the CI,
yes,
what it means is that, and I need some little education here. What it means is that, and I stand to be corrected by everybody who's watching, that the court now will be very careful in seeking to undo that which Parliament has done, because now Parliament is saying that there's a new CI which allows for the exclusion of voters' ID card as a base document for registration. The court cannot do otherwise. The court can only give, you know, oxygen to that which has been passed by, because then there's a law now to back the EC for not using the voters' ID card as part of the document, the base document for registration. I don't know if I'm making sense to you.
Yeah, I do, but and that is exactly.
No, do you understand my argument?
See,
now there's a law.
Let me add something before Dr. comes in. In the case of the CI is not constructed by the executive. The CI cannot be tempered with by Parliament. If they bring a CI to Parliament, it's only to stay the test of time, and after 21 days, automatically it becomes a law. You cannot change a word, a sentence, a clause, or let me say a section of any one of it, any part of it.
That's the point I'm making.
So it's not like a bill, which when it is brought to us, Parliament does all the amendments, yes, and then gives it to the President for accent. And then that one, it will tie the hands of the
The
court may feel that, well, this thing has come to Parliament. Parliament has done everything that it has to do and has brought it to us. But the CI is different.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so now, okay. So that process,
so it will not be
cannot be questioned by the court. Okay.
Yeah, they can add on to it.
Yeah, but beyond that is also constitutional interpretation. Yes. And if the constitution is clear, textualism tells you that once the constitution says A is A, especially so when it does not. You see, but also in applying the law, yeah, there's a certain human face to it. If the court finds that, you know, by applying it rigidly would mean that other people will be disenfranchised. Maybe they will consider.
They will just say, "Oh, add this to it."
Yeah. Please.
You see,
okay.
you see,
I get this now.
And that is my problem here. My problem here is that we have the separation of powers. We have one constitutional organ interpreting the law, one constitutional organ making the law. And I am saying, in between the two are the people of the Republic of Ghana and their interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the two bodies at all times are expected to act in our interest.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yes. And therefore, we expect that they respect that separation of powers. In fact, it is not for nothing that they have been given separate powers. It is for us. And in this case, I am still not happy that a particular, because when you look at the participation, I was building a point on participation.
Yes, you were.
Yes. Participation is critical to multi-party democracy. And one of the elements of enhancement the quality of participation is simplicity, availability of things that will enable you to participate. Between the acquisition of passport and the voters register, tell me, and the birth certificate, tell me which one is simple.
Birth certificate should be simple.
Simple. Between the passport, the ownership, possession of
passport without birth certificate.
Exactly. I will come there. Between the possession of the passport and then the possession of birth certificate, in terms of number, which one is which one should be considered? Definitely, people have more birth certificates than they have passport. There are more people with birth certificates than they are with passport. So if democracy is to enhance our participation, definitely it should go for that simple document that will enable so many people to ensure that they are involved in democracy, democratic process. So that is number one. Number two, you reject the foundation, but you accept the building. That is illogical. There's no way you can acquire a Ghanaian passport in this country without the birth certificate. So if the birth certificate, which leads you to the passport, and the passport is a product of the birth certificate and other processes, cannot be accepted, if the birth certificate cannot be accepted, why should each product be accepted? That is, I want to know. And if you think that foreigners have the birth certificates, my brother, foreigners equally have the passports. My reason, no statistics. It is an assumption. And sometimes assumptions are acceptable, especially when assumptions are so much obvious. The reality of the assumption is so much obvious. Then that assumption should be acceptable. So my problem is that we have decided to do away with simplicity and to go for complexity, which is not in the best interest of the people. Then, going forward, we need to look at certain considerations that may cure some of these problems that we are encountering today. For example, we may consider in the future reviewing the Constitution, amending the Constitution to allow for bicameral legislature, two houses of parliament, where we'll have the lower and then the upper. I think that this bicameral legislature will solve a lot of parliamentary failures. A lot of parliamentary failures. And if we have it, we will have a matter of checking the excesses of the lower house by the upper house and checking the excesses or the failures of the upper house by the lower house. Let's try that one so that we'll be able to see, because we have only one legislative body, and when it speaks, it becomes final at each level. Unless, of course, someone is not satisfied, then the person goes to court, the Supreme Court, for interpretation. Let us have a two-chamber parliament where the opinion of one chamber could be subject to the approval of the other chamber. And then, apart from that, let us also look at the reintroduction of the parliamentary, the Westminster system. But the Westminster system, I agree with my elder brother. Yes, we have been guided by our history. But after almost 30 years of the Fourth Republican constitutional practice, if we think that there are certain things that may be hindering our democratic journey, and certain things that could be solved, certain issues that could be solved by the Westminster system, why don't we revisit it once again? For example, with the Westminster system, the British parliamentary system, you have only one elections. And I think that was conducted during the Second Republic, Bouzet's regime. Apart from the Second Republic, the Fourth and the Third Republic have gone largely. In fact, we claim that it is hybrid, but largely it is the American presidential system, though we have features of the British parliamentary system. You conduct only one parliamentary election. Then the leader of the majority seats of parliament, majority seats in parliament, becomes automatically the winner of the elections. So that saves, it saves money, it saves resources, it saves the time, it saves the anxiety of the Electoral Commission. So let's think about that in the future. Then the next factor is for us to have a multi-party electoral body. But I know a lot of people will oppose this, but that is my opinion. The so-called independent electoral body has failed us in so many ways. I'm not referring to the current electoral commission. Since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, we have had so many issues with the Electoral Commission. And this is an Electoral Commission which is supposed to be neutral. But the basis of its composition itself does not encourage neutrality. If the government, if the president is supposed to be the person to appoint the senior members of the electoral body, definitely that compromises its independence. That gives it the opportunity to act in the interest of the government and not in the interest of the people.
It's a very interesting dimension.
But let me just...
Okay, land on this one, and I'll ask you a few questions.
So in a situation where we will have inter-party electoral body, where all the registered political parties will have a representation on that electoral body, in fact, it will take away that element of suspicion. Because if you claim that it is independent, but its composition itself is not independent, the genesis of its existence is not independent. The genesis of its existence is a decision by a particular political party that alone compromises the so-called independence of it. But from the beginning, you have all the registered political, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, registered political parties. Whether they are doing well or they are not doing well, they are registered. Once they are properly registered, then they must be given the opportunity to choose or to select people to serve on that electoral body, so that suspicion from day one is eliminated. If we will leave it to any political party, in government or in opposition, definitely we will continue to battle with issues of suspicion. Thank you.
Wow. Doc, you want to add a few things to it?
Just to say that the CI is passed. It is passed not because all members of parliament approve it. You realize that the opposition members of parliament, the minority NDC side, oppose it. But that's just to tell you that there's something definitely wrong with it. But that thing wrong with this should not prevent anybody from exercising their rights to have a voter ID card and to vote. But there's still some lights coming out of the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
Which is the possibility that the Supreme Court will take a decision in favor of the people of Ghana, the majority of the people of Ghana who don't have a passport and who don't have a Ghana card. The Supreme Court will hopefully say that, look, let's take a decision that reflects the wishes, the aspirations of the people of Ghana, and then they will go in to add onto it.
Are you not prejudicing the decision of the court?
It's my wish. I'm just telling my wish, and I just hope that the Supreme Court will do that.
Okay.
But that is what the NDC is pleading.
Okay.
In court. I'm reflecting what we are pleading in court.
Okay. Okay.
So the court should listen to us and do what we think is right.
I very good one. You also want to say something?
Well, what I want to say is that at the end of the day, all these happenings, if handled well, will enhance the quality of constitutional order. So we should not be too much worried about what is happening. Let us ensure that the happenings are seen as opportunities to enhance the quality of constitutional governance.
Good morning, KOD. I'm Paul D. Zeng from Nadoli, Upper West Region. In fact, our constitution is doing us more harm than good. Why should our elected members vote on a very important issue on party grounds and not for the good people, and not for the good of the people? And this is what I was talking about. Yeah. I think the CI 126 should have been made there should have been a referendum on it, because majority of Ghanaians are against this instrument. Jemensa would definitely pay for her wickedness. That is what you said. Good morning to you, KOD. Let the NDC know that even though JM did very well, but they lost power in 2016, the MPP keeps on sinning. So the more they get away from Allah or rejected, let them do whatever they wish, but Allah hates the oppressor. My regards to incoming MP for Jombro, Madame Dokas Tofi from Maski Mono in Half Asene. This one says, good morning to you, Kwame, and your guests. It's unfortunate truth that eluded Ghana. Check the scandals within these 3 years, and you will know that this government and its appointees have a parochial agenda. Now, the compilation of the new register is another big fraudulent agenda. These politicians seem to come from one mother. We should rather rise against their deceits and lies. When they give out 1 Ghana cedis, know that they have kept 9 Ghana cedis to themselves. Sadly, we tend to jubilate over the 1 Ghana and applaud them so much that they always laugh at us from a distance. It is time we rise. It's time we acknowledge the fact that they have nothing good to offer this nation. Let's come to think of it. Why do they refuse to complete projects started by previous governments? Let's take into consideration the numerous abandoned projects, and we will understand that they are not for the interest of our nation, but for themselves. Have we asked ourselves why these days lots of people are abandoning their professions, businesses to become active politicians? It's all because it's now becoming, if not the most lucrative business. When they are going in, they will tell us, I want to serve you. They get it, and it will now turn to be what that we should rather serve them. How much will you take home as your end of service benefit? Is this something to write home about? These politicians take home every 4 years hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis after taking huge salaries and various allowances. Good morning, people of Ghana. Let's not argue ourselves into fight for these people. This one also says, hi, KOD, I think that the exclusion of the birth certificate is to register all the free SHS beneficiaries so that they can vote for the MPP. Thanks. Mariama Danladi in Takwa. And this was good morning to you, KOD, and your panelists. We used birth certificates to acquire the passport and the Ghana card. Now, if MPP is saying birth certificate is not a relevant document, then what is the value of the birth certificate? Dipku Ishmael in YO Traffic says, share to you all, especially our dynamic MP Honorable Rashid Pelpo. Yes, this is the difference. This is the difference. The same man of God made similar, if not worse, comments under JDM and was left off the hook. He thought we are still under democracy. Champion, this is an era of dictatorship, and the dictator has no room for press freedom. So I'm not surprised he had weed by magic in his waist bag. Champion, whether CI or not, there will not be any new voters registered. Greetings to Bonus, NDC Regional Chair for Upper West Region. At Honorable Sefiamo Klu says the EC, we are told by a letter released by them to have set 30th of June to kickstart its registration of voters onto a new electoral roll. What level of consideration went into the planning by the EC? Is the CI not supposed to be gazetted for a period of 21 days to be fully operational? He's asking very important questions here. Dipku Ishmael, how are you doing, my brother? Good morning to you, Kwame, on the panel. The time has come, and it's now for us to test the quality of separation of powers. Very, very good, interesting one there. Good morning to you, Kwame Owusu Danso. MPP is trying all they can to win these elections, but Allah has already chosen his leader. Inshallah, NDC will win these coming elections. Nalu from Tamale. I wish one day would say, Inshallah, PNC will win. Inshallah, CPP will win. Now it has become, Inshallah, either NDC or MPP. Is it two-party system? We are the reasons why we are all suffering. Imagine if people, I mean, the political parties themselves, the two big ones, came to the realization that hey, if we don't perform, the people will mafia will, they will vote for, they have the option to vote for PNC, they have the option to vote for CPP, they have the options to vote for Ayariga's political party, APC. They will sit up. But they know that 4 years old, it will come back.
And that seems to be a global culture.
Oh, well, but that's the problem for us. I mean,
even in advanced democracy.
That's the problem. That's the problem we have. Hardly from Pig Farm, because you see, 4 years, this 4 years. I mean, I'm actually when I'm about to work on this thing. Yeah, I think we should advocate for an extension of the period of service. 4 years is too short a time.
Former President Kufuor suggested that.
I think 4 years is too short a time. You can't do anything in 4 years. First year, you are trying to study the terrain. Second year, you do a few things. Third year, you are getting ready for elections, isn't it? So, anyway, Hadi from Pig Farm says, do we have citizenship before Ghana card or ECOWAS Union card? Has now turned to Ghana citizenship card. We have a long way to go. If it's not for ECOWAS, even common citizenship card, we don't have as a nation, but we claim we have leaders. Your message is quite long. Isaaku from Sola. In 2012, the EC training manual had captured birth certificate, but why today it should be captured purported by Dr. Abubakar? Okay, all right. Good morning to you. I'm Victor Chikata, watching you from Pram Pram. Kwame, we can vividly recall that the Akufo-Addo promised to make Accra one of the cleanest cities in Africa. He and his family and friends have barely 5 months to be voted out of power. So I humbly implore him to keep to his promise to making Accra neat in order to curb the occurrence of floods incident. We seem to be forgetting all of these things. This one says that, good morning to you, KOD. I think it is better the parliamentarians consult with their constituents before taking decisions for them. Yes, I agree. That way, the people are involved in the decision making for the nation. They should not decide what they assume the people want. Wonderful, beautiful, intelligent submission by Alhaji Marzouk. If all political parties are represented at the EC, they can unanimously choose a boss. I agree with that one too. Okay. Thank you. Truth is said makes you free, but the passing of CI 126 was not passed in truth, but with a dead conscience. Isaac from Vakpo sent in this one. Good morning to you. Please, if only passport and Ghana card are the only documents we can use for voting, then I can tell the EC boss that I will guarantee for 10 Nigerian people. Emmanuel from Paga sent in this one. The fact is that passport is for one who wishes to travel outside the country. How many people in Ghana have the ability to travel? The EC should just be... Anyway, from John Abugre from Boko Zwasi. I suggest Ghana should have a non-partisan parliament so that the monopoly and the suppression of majority in parliament will be limited in the best interest of well-meaning Ghanaians. Clement DDK Nyagbo Sroe. I hope I got it right. Good morning to you, KOD. Please, do you mind inviting one of the commissioners to come and explain to us how they address an apathy on the side of a guarantor who, after many attempts, he couldn't vouch for his person because of having access to the registration center and he's supposed to go to work. There are similar situations encountered during NI registration. John Major from Ashaiman sent in this one. Well, we've tried severally to invite these guys here to no avail. Good morning, Pan-African TV. Kudos to your network for delving into matters extensively by your invited guests. We need their caliber in your morning show discussions. DMS from Wenchi Bono region. Well, we always bring them, sir. Good morning, Mr. Moderator. I'm not good in English. EC should be very, very careful not to throw the country into peril. MPP is the fuel, NDC the burning flame, and EC boss is the wall between the two components. EC do not let the fuel run into the flame. If you eat big, you shit big. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. Labaika La Huma Labaika sent in this one. Good morning to you, Kwame. Please tell the NDC man that they will never win 2020 elections because 4 years ago, Ghana voted them out of power due to corruption and others. Do you think Ghanaians will bring the incompetent government to come and rule? Christopher from Ashanti region. Corruption, MPP is a disgrace and hypocritical party. Okay, good morning, senior. Please permit me to use one stone to kill two birds on your show. On the voters registration exercise, NDC should stop preparing their supporters against the new voters register. Let's see how well the new register will work. Politicians will hide a lot in it to avoid divergences. Mad Lion from Ahafoshidium sent in. I've listened to these politicians for a long time. My conclusion is that Ghana has failed as a democracy. Name one institution which is working properly as democracy. Zero. We must agree that Ghana is a failed state. Kweku from La Paz sent in this one. Mr. Host, I know say you want NDC to win elections, but it no go work. Oh! Ni Ade No Lie from Lejokuku says, good morning. We all have a duty to safeguard and protect our young democracy as citizens of this nation. And it continues to say, we also, in one accord, stood against military and autocratic rule and embraced the path of democracy. So it will beat one's imagination consistently the way and manner the security services are ordered to manhandle and arrest innocent, harmless, dissenting Ghanaians in a Gestapo style under the leadership of an astute human rights lawyer, His Excellency Akufo-Addo. Well, so for those of you who are very much concerned about what is transpiring relative to gagging of people from speaking, we have created a platform on social media which is Free Speech Movement Ghana. Follow us on Facebook and let's dialogue together and let's speak truth to power. Okay. This one says, I love the show. Emmanuel Yao. Yeboah says, I love the show. This one says, is from, okay. Adade Suzy says, it's my prayer that all fake leaders who don't want peace in Ghana must die. Impromptu. Hey, I beg you. Monica Biante, the only option is, well, stand up and resist the oppressors through Choboy. We can. The MPP did not come to power to help Ghanaians, but to come and enrich themselves. Adam Shakespeare Adam says, if NDC cannot stop this nonsense, then I am afraid it's not worth dying for. He's asking the MDC to stop the nonsense that the EC is doing.
Can I make a comment there before?
Please.
You see, if you want NDC to stop that nonsense, make sure you return as many MPP, sorry, you make sure you return as many NDC candidates to Parliament so they can control Parliament.
Okay.
If they don't control Parliament, you can't stop Parliament. The people who control Parliament are the ones who control Parliament.
Okay. Let me say a special good morning to you, Mavis, of the NDC you're watching us this morning. James Simpson says, good morning. In regards to the two wise doctors, please, I want clarity on the pilot exercise without legal basis.
The what?
The pilot exercise. You know the sea had not matured.
Yeah.
The argument is just very simple. The matter was in court at the time. for the court to determine whether we should exclude the voters ID card or not. Then it was also, they had also now laid the CI in Parliament, awaiting maturity. However, they conducted a piloting with the breeder document that they presented to Parliament for approval to be given. I don't know if I'm... So, on what basis did they now conduct the pilot when, at the time when they were conducting the pilot, the voter's ID card and all the other documents were legal justification? Yes. Are you following? For identifying somebody's, and Ghana card.
That's a very, very, very important question.
Yeah.
You see, an institution can spend money if Parliament votes money for you to spend on a certain specific policy direction or policy activity. The EC requested money from Parliament. Parliament gave them the money to do A, B, C, D. The issue, the instrumentality of what they are going to do would come from the CI.
Yeah.
The CI had not matured, and still they were doing piloting. So the question is, where did you get the money to do the pilot? It was done with impunity. Impunity because you didn't respect the law. So the fellow is right to question
if there's
it.
any call for the arrest of the EC for failing to follow due process.
Yes. Due process is violated.
Yeah. Charles Jamina Samaka says EC sets date for commencement of voter register but fails to state the ending date, and people still want to take them serious. Yeah, Jasapia is watching. Now, Wizzy Kwesi says the people of Ghana are in total confusion right now. We have COVID-19 impacting our lives negatively, and the Akufo-Addo and NPP party are also happily ready to torment our lives further with the compilation of a new voters register. B. Bala Sai says, so EC is going to accept the old register or not? Hey, Nanado, always think about winning election, but he doesn't care about what is going to happen to your station. Muntaro Moro says, I love your station, Star Biabi. Thank you so much. Good God lover do Damkwa Nesta says, greetings, so Ghana greetings from Kumasi. Franklin Lim says, KOD, my question is, how will the EC ensure that 15 to 17 years Ghanaians having the Ghana card will not have their way onto the new register? This one also says, from Ahmed Abdulaziz, says, good education by Dr. Maruzuk. We are happy with your submissions. And it goes on and on and on and on. My time is up.
We are humble.
Let me say thank you so much, Honorable Rashid Pelpo, for your time today. Today has been very, very educative. I won't lie to you. I've now understood a few parliamentary processes and things like that. But sometimes I believe that, you know, you must also raise, and I know they are very much aware, but you must consistently, without fail, remind them of the interests that they serve. They serve the people, and so if they're taking decisions, they must consider the general feelings of the people before they arrive at those decisions. They shouldn't assume that by dint of the fact that, you know, their government is in power, every decision that they take will be a decision that will be supported by all in their constituencies. You know, everybody. I'm sure now people are very discerning, you know. So, Doc,
yes.
Please remind your colleagues every single time. And Dr. Maruzuk, thank you very kindly for your time. I really appreciate the education. My name is Kwame Owusu, and so today has been very, very emotional for me because we are still having to grapple with the issue of floods in Ghana. And also, you know that COVID-19, the cases have now hit the 10,000 mark. Yet, we still want to compile new voters register. I think that conscience must prevail, and we're prevailing upon the EC to let conscience override their parochial interest. I don't know whatever the interests are, but I think that it's important to appreciate without any iota of contradiction the dangers that may arise as a result of our continuing attempt to conduct the compilation of a new voters register. Yes, sir, please, quickly.
On behalf of my elder brother,
yeah,
I extend our condolences to the families of the people who died in the avoidable disaster. Thank you.
Julius Agahowa and Tahiru from Asawase, I've seen your message. It says, KO, the COVID-19 has vindicated experts who said the country was facing severe economic shutdown, which they attributed to the government's recklessness. And also, Walanyo Nakwetia says, Ghanaians should be mindful of NDC opposing the new voters register. They will be doing something otherwise to turn in their numbers to register. Thank you. And you say your regards to NSC Akumi. And also Hadi from Pig Farm says, do we have citizenship before? Okay, I think Hadi, I've read your message already. Ambassador Sampiale says, when the law is used to oppress the people will rise to suppress the law. That is what Ambassador Sampiale sent to us this morning. My name has been Kwame Owusu, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a very blissful day. Salute says.
Thank you.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana show boy, Africa's great son, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.